Welcome, everyone, to Rethinking Learning Conversations That Matter. I'm your host, Jessica, and today we have something truly special for you. If you're an educator, a parent, a lifelong learner, or just someone who believes that school should do more than just prepare us for standardized tests, then this episode is for you. Joining us today is a thought leader, innovator, and challenger of the status quo in education, Zenson Tran. He's the author of the brand new book, Small Shifts, Big Gains, Harnessing Research Driven Micro Innovations to Transform Education. And let me tell you, this book is a game changer. Zenson, welcome to the show.
Jessica, thanks so much for having me. I love what you're doing with this podcast. So many of us are ready to rethink learning, and I'm thrilled to dive into this conversation today.
Let's get right into it. Your book, Small Shifts, Big Gains, makes a bold argument that education doesn't need another massive reform. It needs small, intentional shifts that actually work. For our listeners who may be new to this idea, give us the big picture. What's the heart of this book?
Absolutely. Let's start with a simple question. Do you remember the first time you stepped into a classroom as a child? That first encounter with school? For most of us, it was a mix of excitement and curiosity. School was supposed to be a place of discovery, a place where we explored, played with ideas, and grew into the best version of ourselves. But somewhere along the way, that excitement faded. Instead of a place of discovery, school became a place of rules, memorization, and standardized tests. A place where creativity wasn't nurtured, it was managed. And that's the problem. Education today isn't failing because teachers don't care. It's failing because the system is outdated. It was designed for a time when people needed to follow instructions, not think for themselves. But here's the good news: we don't need to tear it all down to make it better. We just need small strategic shifts, micro innovations that can transform learning from the inside out. That's what this book is about.
That's such a powerful perspective, and it makes so much sense. We often hear about big reforms, new policies, new curriculums, new tech, but rarely do we hear about small, practical changes that actually make a difference in the classroom. What inspired you to write this book? Was there a particular moment that made you say, I have to get this message out there?
Oh, absolutely. I had this moment a few years ago. I was observing a classroom, and I saw this tiny shift that completely changed the dynamic. The teacher simply moved to the door and greeted every student by name as they walked in. That's it. And what happened? The energy of the entire class shifted. Students were more engaged, more present, more willing to participate. It hit me. Small changes can create massive impact. So I started researching: what other micro innovations exist? What does cognitive science say about small shifts in teaching? What are the quickest, most effective ways to make learning feel alive again? And the deeper I went, the more I realized we don't need a revolution, we need an evolution. This book is about simple, research backed shifts that any teacher can implement today without waiting for policy changes or more funding, because education isn't broken, it's just misaligned. And we have the power to fix that, one small shift at a time.
I love that. And what's so powerful about what you're saying is that these aren't just ideas. They're backed by research and real classroom results. Let's make this real for our listeners. Can you share some of the micro innovations from the book that teachers or even parents can start using right now?
Absolutely. Let me give you three that can immediately transform any learning environment. 1. The silent start shift. Instead of students walking into class chatting and unfocused, have a low stakes retrieval prompt waiting for them. Example: write down three things you remember from yesterday's lesson in 60 seconds. Why it works: it activates memory, eliminates wasted time, and gets students thinking before you even say a word. 2. The 1 minute story hook. Start your lesson with a short, compelling question or scenario before giving any direct instruction. Example: imagine you're stranded on Mars. You need to grow food. What do you do? Before teaching photosynthesis. Why it works. Curiosity drives attention better than discipline. 3. The teach it to a 5-year-old rule. At the end of a lesson, instead of just summarizing, have students explain the concept in the simplest possible way. Example: if you had to explain today's lesson to a kid, what would you say? Why it works. Forces deep understanding, not just memorization. Small shifts, big gains. That's the whole idea.
Wow. And what I love about these is that they don't take extra time or resources. They just reframe how we approach learning. So, for the teachers, parents, or even students listening, what's one big takeaway you want them to walk away with?
If you remember one thing from this conversation, let it be this: big change doesn't require big effort. The most powerful revolutions in learning start with small, repeatable shifts. If you're a teacher, try one micro innovation today. If you're a parent, create an environment where curiosity is nurtured. If you're a student, never stop questioning, experimenting, and learning. Because the truth is, education isn't something that happens to us, it's something we create.
Zenson, this has been incredible. Your passion for transforming learning is contagious, and I know our listeners are walking away inspired and equipped. To everyone listening, if you want to dive deeper into these ideas, grab a copy of Small Shifts, Big Gains. It's available wherever you get your books, and trust me, this is the book that will make you rethink everything you thought you knew about education. Zenson, thank you for joining us today.